T and a 60 gig hard drive, plus a 17-inch monitor and printer, all from HP.
Yo, what's up? I'm Ecstasy Jones, and this is Cliptrig, a video pack for the OPZ. Cliptrig is a 240p live looper for video that's designed to work seamlessly with the OPZ. It's meant to be used as an audiovisual instrument and embraces the idea of discovering musical relationships in anything. Load in any video and use the timeline to discover and create interesting loop points to mix with your music. In this tutorial, I'm going to try my best to show you all the cool things it can do because it's a ton of fun to use in a live set. First things first, let's talk about file formatting. Cliptrig works best with video files that are 240p, but different devices will have different performance capabilities. For example, it works lightning fast on my M1 Mac and my new iPad Pro, but when using my older iPhone, I have to make some compromises. I've found that on newer Apple devices that support it, the Apple ProRes encoding format works the best, although in most cases, a standard .mp4 or .mov work decently. Shutter Encoder is a free program you can use to encode your videos into 240p Apple ProRes or other formats, so feel free to experiment. Now that we've briefly gone over file formatting, let's start to hook things up. The simplest way to set up Cliptrig with your OPZ is to use a single USB-C cable. Audio from the Videopak will pass through the OPZ on the module track, and it'll also handle MIDI back and forth as well. If we want to use an external display, such as a projector, we can connect to the OPZ app with Bluetooth MIDI. We can then get HDMI out from our device and feed audio from the projector's headphone port back into the OPZ through the line module. Before setting up the Videopak, make sure MIDI in and out is enabled in the OPZ app settings. We can ensure this by going into the OPZ app and then to the MIDI setup section. Download the Z-Pack and open it on your device. Hit share and select OPZ to import it. The first thing we'll have to do when using iOS is do a quick setup. We only have to do this once, and it creates a way for your iOS device to access videos so that they may be read by the OPZ app. Let's start by creating the folder we want to put our videos in. If you navigate to On My iPhone, or On My iPad if you're on tablet, you'll see the OPZ folder, which contains all of the app's files. If we click into it, we'll see a folder called Photomatic. This folder is where the OPZ app looks to be able to dynamically load photos and videos. So we'll need to create a folder in here. I just named mine Cliptrig, but you can name yours whatever you want. This Cliptrig folder is where we can drop our videos. Next, we'll need to download two apps. The first is called Shortcuts by Apple, and the second is called Actions, and all Actions does is gives Shortcuts more ability. Once we've downloaded these apps, let's open the Shortcuts app and create a custom shortcut. Let's hit the plus button to create a new shortcut, and in the search field, type file path. We can choose Get File Path. Then we can type again in the search field, Copy. This Copy to Clipboard function will appear, and we can select that. So now our custom shortcut is Get Path to File, Copy File Path to Clipboard. Almost done. The last thing we have to do is go to Settings, Accessibility, Touch. In this menu, we need to enable Assistive Touch, which will give us this little floating menu that we can access from any app. We'll need to add our custom shortcut to it by going to Customize Top Level menu and adding it. We're now set up. We can go back into our OPZ app and import our video. Let's launch the Videopak, and then once it loads, we can open up our little assistive touch menu and choose our shortcut. It will open a dialog where we can select our video file. Once our video file is selected, the file path will automatically be copied, and we can paste it into the input field at the bottom of Cliptrig. If everything went correctly, once we hit enter, the timeline will update with a preview of the video frames. If we want to change this video, all we have to do is tap that timeline and the input field will reappear. We can then replace that URL with a different one. Setting up on a Mac is easy. Let's first go to our Applications folder and find the OPZ app. We can right-click this app and hit Show Package Contents. From there, we can navigate to Contents, Resources, Data, Streaming Assets, Photomatic. This Photomatic folder is where the OPZ app can read video files from. We can create a new folder in here. I just called mine Cliptrig, but you can call yours whatever you want. After placing our video files in this folder, all we need is the file path URL for our Videopak. We can get it by exposing the path bar. If we go to Finder and choose View, Show Path Bar, we can now see a file location at the bottom of our Finder window. Let's select a video file and right-click the path bar at the bottom to copy it. We can then go into our Videopak and paste it into the input field at the bottom. If everything went correctly, once we hit enter, the timeline will update with a preview of the video frames. If we want to change this video, all we have to do is click that timeline and the input field will reappear. We can replace that URL with a different one. Unfortunately, local files are currently unsupported on Android, although you can still stream them from web URLs. More on that later. The issue with Android is that newer versions of Android have security features that block you from accessing the device's app's files in the default Files app. But you can still use apps like FV File Explorer to get past Google security features and find the Photomatic folder in the app. I think my issue with getting videos to load has to do with understanding the way file paths are cataloged on Android, and it seems that there's multiple types for different purposes, and also different security protocols guarding different ones. Everything should be good to go though on the Videopak end, so if you do figure out a way to get this working, please comment, I'd love to know. One last way to get videos into Cliptrig is to stream them from websites that host files, although locally downloaded files will always perform better. Additionally, these sites need to use direct links to the files, so sites like YouTube won't work. Archive.org is a great website that has links to video files, or you could also do an index of search on Google. If you search index of MP4, for example, a bunch of websites will pop up that host MP4 files, and you can use those links in the Videopak. Awesome, now we can finally open Cliptrig and start using it. When we open Cliptrig, the first thing we can see is this menu. If we're on a tablet, we can go to Settings and select Tablet, and the UI will adjust. In these settings, we can also change the aspect ratio of the output screen in case we're using an external display that doesn't match our primary display. The UI will only show up on a primary display, not an external one. We can also choose to hide this UI on our primary display entirely if we want. For example, if we wanted to do a screen recording. If we hit this button and then close the menu, we can see that the UI is gone, but if we want to get it back, we can press Shift and the rightmost button, and that brings back the menu, and then we can toggle the UI back on. This Videopak operates entirely on channel 16, the motion track. Cliptrig's primary feature is this timeline, located here at the bottom. Here, we can see a playhead, as well as the start and end points. Note that the start and end points don't represent the entire length of the video. More on that later. We can use knob 1 to scroll through the video and select the point from which our video plays. Number 9 will trigger playback, and number 0 will stop it. We can use this trigger on the step sequencer and add notes that will re-trigger to the playhead's location. Think of this like composing a rhythm. We can use knob 1 to dynamically change the location of the playhead and manipulate where the video is looping from on the fly. Knob 2 is the nudge knob. We can use it to offset the loop against the rest of the music and beat match in a way. Let's loop some video while a beat is playing. Right now, the video doesn't sound super in sync with our beat, but as we adjust the nudge knob, we can find a more musical relationship between them. That sounds much better now. This also acts as a way to compensate for playback lag in the video. Knob 3 is the zoom knob. It's inspired in functionality by the way Sample Edit on the SP404 Mark II works. If we find a part of a video that we're interested in, we can use this to zoom into it and get more granularity in our timeline. As you can see, as I zoom in, the start and end points change to reflect the current slice of the timeline that we're looking at. After I let it go, the timeline thumbnails will update to show a preview of this section. Now, instead of a 60-second window, I can zoom all the way in and play with a 2-second window instead. We can also use this zoom to navigate to different portions of a longer video. Let's zoom out for a more macro view of the entire video. Now, we can pick a new portion that we're curious about and zoom into that. Knob 4 is volume. It adjusts the internal volume of the video itself, which can be useful if we're taking audio straight to a mixer instead of back through the OPZ and can't control input volume from the module track. When we find a loop that we like, we can save it into our cue deck at the top. We have 8 slots for cue points that we can store and access. To store a cue point, simply press and hold the corresponding number on the OPZ for a couple seconds. Let's save this point into slot 1. You will see the slot flash red once it's saved, and the thumbnail will update. We can then navigate away from this position, and to recall it, simply short press the same button. Using these cue points are a great way to build up a live performance. Once a cue has been triggered, the playhead will snap back to center and the timeline will update to reflect this new center point. Using the tape track with Cliptrig is also a great way to transition between cues or loop points. We can set the tape track to only listen to the module track. I personally like to set a trigger on the tape track every 8 bars, which turns the audio buffer into a kind of fill. If you time your transitions just right, it's pretty seamless. Cliptrig also has a ton of visual effects as well. The white keys on the OPZ act as punch-in effects. Like Zetterall, they are momentary effects by default, but if we press Shift and hit a key, it will turn that momentary control into a toggle, so we can keep it on without having to hold down the button. We can see which punch-in effects are enabled by this dot representation in this section of the UI. Knobs 5 through 8 are fine-tune controls for color. We have hue, saturation, brightness, and contrast. You can see the knob positions represented in this section of the UI in green. Hue shift is pre-effects and the rest are post-effects. Knobs 9 through 12 are the controls for keying. We have 2 keying modes, chroma key and diffuse key. These can be toggled with note 76. The default is chroma key mode, where we can set a color to be removed from the video. In this mode, our controls are hue, saturation, brightness, and intensity. You can see the color that's being removed represented in this top section of the UI in purple. If we go into diffuse key mode, we just have a single control, intensity, which detects the edges in the color and removes parts around the edges. The last set of controls, knobs 13 through 16, are feedback. Feedback is typically only visible when part of the video is keyed out, thereby creating patterns from the cutout edges of the video. You can see this section represented in yellow at the top of the UI. Here we have X direction, Y direction, rotation, and scale. The color controls and punching effects will also have an influence on the appearance of the feedback, so please play around with these different settings. If we want a simpler view and don't want all this extra visual information on the top of the UI, we can simply tap the top bar and it will all hide. Cliptrig was initially designed for single pattern jamming, which means the entire performance is contained in a single pattern and controlled by using mutes and programming the sequencer live. That's personally my favorite way to use the OPZ, but if we want to use multiple patterns to create a composition, for example, we should keep in mind that the OPZ has default settings for the motion track knob positions on empty patterns, so it can help to create a configuration we like on one pattern and then copy it to the next pattern before changing it. That's it for Cliptrig. Hope you can use it to create some cool audiovisual performances and find it as fun as I do. Thanks so much for watching.